Hello everyone and welcome you all to another chapter of the Adobe Premiere Pro Essentials tutorial. So now we are on our chapter number 10 and here I will be showing you how you can understand the motion effects in Premiere Pro. So here we'll be understanding learning together the motion effects in Premiere Pro, which contains of how you can scale down if you do have 2 or 3 videos. Okay, here also you'll be learning if you do have a B-roll footage. Okay, I'll be teaching you guys about that. So we are just starting on with few of the advanced features here in our Premiere Pro. Okay, so we'll be learning about all of this here in this particular chapter. So let's not waste time and let's get started on understanding motion effects in Premiere Pro. So here, as you guys can see, now I am in the homepage of the Adobe Premiere Pro. So from here, I will click on New Project and I will name this project as the motion. Okay, so I will name this project as motion. And now what I'll do is I will save this particular project and it will just give me a workspace over here. Okay, so first thing I will be just importing few of the medias. Okay, so as you guys can see, I do have few of these videos over here. I will just take all of this down and I will open it over here. Okay, so as you guys can see, I do have a lot of videos around here. So first up, what I am going to do is I am going to take this one. Suppose I want to take this particular video over here. And now I will just place this particular video here in my timeline. Okay, so the timeline already created a sequence for me, as you guys can see here in my import options. So this is basically my sequence. Okay, and now what else I'm going to do is I'm going to take this particular video and I will put this particular video on top of this one. Okay, so now as you guys can see, I do have this video on top of this one over here. Okay, so now I will select this one and now I will right click and first I will unlink both of this because I don't want this audio over here. Same goes with this file. Okay, I will just unlink and now what I'll do is I'll select this particular thing and now right click and I can just cut this thing over here as well. So now I do have 2 videos here as you guys can see. So now let's try to understand about this B-roll footage over here. Okay, so for that what I need to do is I need to come here. First I need to make sure that I am selecting the file which I am going to work with. Okay, so now I will go to the effects control and I will just select this particular file, and here I won't be teaching you guys now about this opacity, time remapping, okay, or this blending mode. Okay, not all of this right now. I will be more focusing on the motion of this thing. Okay, so here I'll be explaining you guys about the positioning, the scaling, the rotation, and the anchor point over here. Okay, so for right now you guys don't need the anti-flicker filter. Okay, we'll be learning about this one later. Okay, so this one is quite advanced, so I will just explain you guys about the motion in this particular video. Okay, so as you guys can see here in my project panel that I already do have this particular video right around here on my screen. So if I just want to position it, okay, so this one, if I just try to drag it here, okay, so it will just change the horizontal positioning over here. Okay, and if I want to vertically change this thing, what I need to do is I need to take this one over here. Okay, so if I want to bring this thing down, I can basically bring this thing down or up. Okay, I can do that. If I just want to go back to the same place where it was before, then here I do have my reset parameter option, and each one of these I do have it here. Okay, for scaling as well. Okay, I do have this thing over here. So what I'll do is I'll just reset the parameter, and as you guys can see, now again it's back at its same position. Okay, so now here again it's just back again at the same position, as you guys can already see. Okay, so this was about positioning. Okay, so like this you guys can just move this thing up. Okay, so I will just keep this thing somewhat over here, and now what I am able to do is I will come here in the scaling option. Okay, so there are many different ways of how you can actually scale this thing down, or if you want to scale it up. Okay, so now I will just show you guys the basic of how I can actually scale this video down, or how I can actually scale this video up. Okay, so now if I just want to scale this thing more, as you guys can see, I can just scale this thing more or less from here. And now, as you guys can see, once I am doing that here on my particular screen, okay, it is changing proportionally. Okay, so why does it change it proportionally? Suppose you do want to do it proportionally. You just want to add some part, or you just want to decrease this white part over here. Okay, you just want to cut this part. Okay, so in that case, what you can do is you guys can actually unmark this uniform scale option. Okay, so once I just change this thing right around here, now what I can do is I can just scale this one kind of like this. Okay, if I want to scale the height quite like this, and if I want to scale the width, I can also scale the width quite like this. And now if you tell me I just want to do it from my screen over here. Okay, so for that, first I will just select the uniform scaling option. And now what I'll do is, once I have selected this thing, I will come here and I will double click. Okay, so once you double click on that particular video or the footage which I do have here. Okay, so let me just increase the size that you guys will be able to see this thing properly. So now if I just increase the size like this, you guys can see it will increase or decrease the size of this particular frame proportionally. Okay, so this you don't have to just click on shift. Okay, without shift also you guys can do, but if you just click on shift, there is no much difference. Okay, so there is no difference at all. As you guys can see, I am now holding on to my shift, but without shift as well, I can just increase or decrease the size. And as you guys can see, once I am doing it from my preview panel, the values over here in my effects control motion panel, it's also changing. Okay, so now I can just place this thing accordingly. I'll tell you in next class how you can actually animate those layers. So I will be explaining you guys with the keyframes, like how we can actually make it appear like in an animated way. Okay, so I'll be teaching you guys about that one in next class. Okay, so here, as you guys can see, if I just wanna increase it from any end, okay, as you guys can see, these are few of the points, okay, which I can use to increase or decrease the size of the frame over here. Okay, so now again, if I just come here and if I just click on this one, and now from here as well there is another way. Okay, this is how I can actually use this thing over here. Okay, so you guys can actually do it the way you want to do it. Okay, so there are different ways of how to do a simple thing. Okay, so you guys can choose which one is more convenient to you. Same goes with the scale height. Okay, I can actually increase the height kind of like this. Okay, so this is how you can actually work here in this particular place. Okay, so I hope you guys have understood about the positioning and also the how you can actually scale height or scale the width. Okay, so let's come to this rotation. Okay, so now as I have selected this, I'll just double click on this one. And now if I want to give this thing a rotation, so the first way is like this. I can just give this thing a rotation from here. As you guys can see, I can just come around here, and now I can just give this thing a rotation. Okay, suppose I think, okay, I have just messed up and I want to change it again. So here what you can do is you can come here and just simply click on reset parameter, and it will just go back to its same original position. Okay, so this is one way of just putting on some rotation. Okay, the other way is if you just drop this thing down over here, and here you guys can see there is another way of how you can actually give some rotation over here. Okay, so from here as well, if you want to give this thing a rotation quite like this. Okay, so from here as well, you guys can see the degree of how much you're rotating. Okay, so here you guys can actually give this thing a rotation quite like this. And if you want to go back to the same position, you can just go back to the same position here as well. Okay, so this is about the rotation, and I hope you guys have our understanding over here. Okay, so now if I just double click on this particular icon over here, okay, so now if I want to scale this thing, or if I want to scale this thing to a particular position. Okay, so this rotation also, I guess this one is also clear to you guys. Now you guys can actually rotate your image, or if you do have any kind of intro video, okay, you just want it for a small time. Okay, so you guys can actually do that. And from here, you guys can actually decrease the timing of this particular frame till what time you wanna play this thing. You guys can actually maintain that one. So now let's come to this anchor point over here. Okay, so now if you want to change the anchor point, okay, so here you guys can see I am able to change the anchor point from here. Okay, now if I just reset parameter, it's back again. So here, as you guys can see, in the middle of my b-roll footage which I have just selected, okay, I can basically bring my anchor point kind of here. Okay, suppose if I want to bring this here in one corner, I can basically bring the anchor point from here. So now if I just put my anchor point over here, and now if I try to scale this thing up, here you guys can see I can just scale this thing up quite like this. And now if I do the uniform scaling, okay, now if I just increase the height, okay, here you guys can see this is the basic anchor point. So from here, it won't be moving. Okay, so if I am scaling it down, it will just if I'm scaling it up, it will just scale up from here. Okay, so on this particular part. But once I had my anchor point here in the exact middle, okay, in that case, it will just scale down from the middle itself. Okay, so from it will just scale down in all the sides proportionally. Okay, but now here, as I have put this thing here down again, okay, now if I try to scale this thing down, or if I just try to scale this thing up, it will just scale it up according to this frame. Okay, and the same way, if I just keep my icon over here, okay, or my anchor point over here, and now if I try to zoom in, or if I try to scale it up or scale it down, here you guys can see from this side it is scaling up or it is scaling down. Okay, so this is another way of how you can actually use your anchor points. Totally depends on yourself how you want to work this thing out. Okay, and now if I want to come to this particular positioning, I can come here in the positioning option. Okay, so in other classes, I'll show you if you just want to crop your footage down, how you can actually crop your footage down from here. Okay, so if I will select this frame over here, and now if I want to scale the footage down, okay, so from here I can basically scale my footage down kind of like this. Okay, now here you guys can see on the margins, I do have a black border. Okay, so this is how I can actually work out. And again, if I just come to this footage again and double click on this one, and now I can basically place that here in the middle itself. Okay, so now here you guys can see I do have all of these options over here. Okay, and again, if I want to get my anchor point back in the middle, okay, so what I can do is I can just bring this here in the middle. Now you guys can see again, it's back at its original position where my anchor point was. And now if I decrease the size, here you guys can see it is decreasing the size proportionally as I do have my uniform scaling on over here. Okay, so now at this point, okay, you guys have understood about how you can position things down. Okay, so this one is for the horizontal movement. Okay, and this one is for the vertical movement up or down. Okay, so this is about this thing. If you want to scale it down, you can do it from here. Otherwise, you guys can come here on our project window, and from here you guys can scale this thing up or scale this thing down as well. Okay, and if you want to individually do the width and the height, you guys can also come here and you guys can actually do that from here just by unmarking the uniform scaling options. So for me, it's a personal opinion that whenever I'm using this particular set of work, or whenever I am trying to work in Adobe Premiere Pro, and I am working with my motion, I make sure that I do have my uniform scale on. Okay. Sometimes it will just scattered. Okay. So I'll just show you guys an example. Suppose I do have this unmarked, and now I will just change the width kind of like this. So it is just distorting. Okay. So the quality of the footage which I do have here, it's not good. Okay, it's looking bad. So here for that thing, I always prefer that uniform scaling option is tick mark for me over here. Okay, and if I want to give this thing a rotation, I can also give this thing a rotation over here. Okay, and suppose now you are done with your work. Okay, so you did the positioning, each and everything. Okay, but now you thought, okay, let me change each and everything at once. I don't want to change each and everything. Okay, so one thing is that you come here and click on all of these, reset parameter, each one individually. But if you want to change all the settings which you just have put in your motion because you thought of a new motion where, or you are just told to do that one in such a way, in that case, directly, if you want to change the motion, the easiest way is just come here and click on this. Okay, so as you can see, once I have clicked on this particular thing down over here, everything is back at its own position. Okay, so again, I will just bring this one over somewhere here. Okay, and now let's see a preview of how it actually looks. Okay, so let me just play this particular video, and now that particular video will disappear and it will just continue. And if I want to work the same way, okay, I can actually work the same way over here with my panel. Okay, so now if I come here, if I just select this one, bring my playhead again over here, that I can view it in my preview panel. Okay, so I hope you guys have understood this class on the motion effects. Okay, from our effects control panel, how we can get access to that, different ways of actually working on with the positioning, the scaling. Okay, if you want to work on with the rotation, there is different ways how we can work on with the rotation. And now if you want to change the anchor point, okay, so from here how you will be able to check on with the anchor point over here. Okay, and if you want to take this on top, how you will be able to take this on top here as well. Okay, so now I will just reset this. For me, I prefer that my anchor point stays here in the middle. Okay, so if I'm just scaling things down, or if I'm scaling things up, in that case it will be proportional. Okay, and it should be in the middle, so that's what I feel. But in your case, you guys can actually do according to your need. It's not that I never used, okay, but sometimes for some cases, but in general, I would love to keep my anchor point here in the basic middle. Okay, so hope you guys have understood this particular class here on the motion effects. Okay, how you can actually get these controls. Okay, and once you start practicing, you guys will feel a lot better. And I have tried to tell you guys the different ways of how you can actually work on with the position, the scaling, the rotation, the uses of anchor point. So in the next class, I'll be telling you guys using these anchor points, how you can actually work on or animate those things out. Suppose I do have this particular frame. Okay, so in next class, I'll show you that once I do have this particular frame over here, how it will appear and how it will just go away from my screen. Okay, I will show you guys the control over here as well. So see you all in the next chapter. Till then, take care and goodbye everyone.